Zakta Mishnah. Anything that it comes out of wood, you cannot use as the wick. The only one, the exception would be linen. And anything that comes out of wood is not going to be valid as is not going to be tummy. It's susceptible to tumah, and not susceptible. It won't become tummy as the ohel, as a tent, besides for pishtan linen. So the Torah says, and if somebody is deceased in a tent, the ohel hames, the tent of the deceased, counts as a transfer of the tumah. So not only one who was in contact with the mace, but also one who's under the same roof will also be tamei. Now, if you have something attached to the ground, normally we say it's not susceptible to tumah because the ground is not susceptible to tumah. However, a tent is not is flimsy, and so Tosfos says that even though that it's attached to the ground, linen will itself become tamei. The linen itself will become tummy, where other things that come from wood will not. Rashi does not tell us whether it's attached to the ground or not. Rashi does not make that specification. It would seem either way, attached or not, or at least he's talking about by not attached, that other materials would not be susceptible to tumah. Linen itself will be susceptible to tumah. Other materials will transfer the tumah because they act as a cover, but they themselves, the material of the tent, will not be itself tummy. Now, what materials are we talking about? So Rashi says we're talking about cotton and canvas. These are things that grow from the ground, essentially come from wood, and they would not be good as a wick, and they would not be a material that would be susceptible to tumah or would become tamei in an oil hames. Tosfos disagrees. Tosfos says the reason the Gemara gave earlier for why wood doesn't work is because it's not a good wick. It doesn't draw up the oils or the fuel well. So Tosfos says cotton. Every day we use cotton, and it's the best kind of wick. So how can it be that the Mishnah is saying you can't use cotton as a wick? So Tosfos says, of course, you can use cotton as a wick, and we're not talking about the seeds of the tree or in the case of the cotton, the fluff ball off of those seeds. That in itself, of course, is going to be a valid wick. When we're talking about somehow the wood itself reeds and the like, which the anything that's called wood is not going to be a valid form of wick. Minalan. So how do we know the pishtan ikri eitz? How do we know that linen is called a wood? Amar mazutu da makra v'hi ha'alasa ma'agaga v'titmanim b'pishtei eitz. When Rachav took the two spies from Yehoshua into Yericho, as they were entering the land, and the messengers of the ruler of Yericho came to check on the rumors that there were foreigners that made it into the land, and they were afraid. She took the two and hid them on the roof in the Pishtei Eitz, in the linen woods. So you see that the linen is considered wood. Anything that comes out of wood is not a valid cloth for tents. So to get into this Gemara, we're going to need a little bit of a explanation of how the Mishkan was built. So the Mishkan, as we learned in the previous parshas, had three coverings, as you can see in the diagram I just shared with you, and not in the diagram, in the picture I just shared with you of this model. So it had 3 covers. What they're showing over here is this is the curtain in the opening, but essentially there was under this there's a cover. There's this black one here, which is made of spun goat hair, and they are, as you can see, 11 separate pieces. One, and you can see the dividing line, and another. So these were made of goat hair. On top, you have red ram skin and tachash skin, which they were demonstrating with leopard skin. And beneath, there's another one made of linen mixed with wool. So that's the curtains or the cloth that are the covers of the Mishkan. 3 covers. Okay, the hide top one, the goat hairs middle one, and the linen wool on the bottom, which is the primary cover of the tent itself, the one you see from the inside. And the goat hair one is a second layer, and the hides on top, third layer. So the Gemara tells us, Minolan, how do we know that that anything comes from wood is not considered a tent? Amar Rabbi Lazar, Gomar oil mi Mishkan. We learn it from the Mishkan, and we're now at Chav Ches Amud Aleph at the top, 28a at the top. We learn it from the Mishkan, just as the Mishkan. Just as it says by a deceased person, that this is the teaching. If a person were to die in a tent, and there it says that the tumah would transfer to other things in the tent, and it says over there by the Mishkan, Vayifros es ha'oil ala Mishkan, and he would spread the tent over the Mishkan, over the tabernacle. Malahalan shel pishtam, kara oil, just as in the Mishkan, it was linens that were counted as the cover for the oil, but not other wood. Afkan shel pishtam kara oil, so too over here, linen, flax would count as wood, but no other as a cover, but no other woods would count as a cover. So Gemara says, well, if you're going to compare it to there, let's compare it in other matters as well. Well, over there we say that it has to be not only spun, but it has to be twisted multiple times, and kafel vav, and it has to have 6 strands of twisted. Afkan shazurin v'chutim kafel. So too over here it has to be shazurin, twisted, and v'chutim kafel vav, and 6 times. So here's how the threads in these cloths went. You'd have 6 strands of linen, and then you'd have 6 strands of one color wool. Okay, and what you would do is for each one you would twist them and sort of make a twine out of each one, and then you would then twist the linen, the 6-ply linen, and the 6-ply wool, and the 6-ply other color wool, and you would twist those so you get a thick twine as your starting weave, as you start a thread for your weave. So we're talking about that it was shazurin, twisted into twine, and 6 times 6. So too, maybe the only thing that's susceptible to tumah as tumas oil is something that's shazurin, kafel shisha. Tamaloma oil riba. Well, the Torah says Adam kiyamas ba'oil v'chala ba'el ha'oil v'chala asher ba'oil. It says in the Torah extra oil, because it says this is the teaching of the tent. Anything that comes into the tent and anything that is in the tent will become tummy. You can just say this is the teaching of the tent. Anything that comes in or is in would be tummy. So oil riba tells you extra oil. Oil ribas. And Gemara says, if you're telling me that there's an extra oil to tell us that it includes, even if it's not such thick threads, I feel it called mili nami. So why don't we say even other materials, not only flax? Well, I already have a comparison to Mishkan. It's got to teach me something. So that teaching has to be that the only wood materials are wood-based materials are going to be flax, linen. The Gemara says, okay, let's also say, just as over there, the support beams were made of wood, so to here we see that wood count as since they count as the support of the tent. So the makeup of the tent is using wood, so wood's included. It says that the karashim, the supports, were made for the tent, for the tabernacle. So you see, they themselves are not the Mishkan; they are just a support to. So Mishkan, Kare Mishkan, the tabernacle itself, and therefore the covers are counted as the Mishkan. But in Karashim, Kare Mishkan, but the Karashim themselves are not the Mishkan; they are only the supports too. Elamiyata, if that logic works, that anything that serves the tabernacle doesn't count as a part of it, and therefore you can't say is a part of the tent. Elamiyata v'sisa michsel oil. It says, and you will make a cover to the oil to the tent. Are you going to tell me that a cover doesn't count a tent? Of course, that's the very basis, the essence of a tent is that of an oil is that it has a cover. And here it says you will make a cover to the tent, which indicates that it's not that it itself is not the tent. Ella Hadabai Rabbi Lazar. Rather, this question of Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar asks a question. Can non-kosher animals' hides, so camel hide, is that work to become tamei? Does that count to become tamei in a tent? Hashta, so Gemara says, Hashta or behema tahor lo metamei. And if you tell me that the upper hide, as we showed in that picture, that the top layer of the Mishkan was a ram's hide dyed red. Well, if that, which is a kosher animal, is not susceptible to tumah because you say that it's a cover to the tent, but not the tent itself, or behema tamei, do I need to even ask the question of whether camel hide is itself becomes tamei? Even kosher animals don't become tamei. The Gemara says no. Shani hasam dahada adrikra. You're right. That in general, if the Torah calls it a support to the tent, it isn't a part of the tent. It would not be susceptible to tumah as a material of cover. However, in that particular case, the Torah goes back and includes it in the coverings as the tent. The Sifra, it says, when describing the travels of the Mishkan, it says, and they will cover and they will carry the cloths, the coverings, the spreads really of the Mishkan, ve'es oil moed, and the cover that's called the oil moed, its cover and the covers and the cover of tachash, the tachash hide, which is over. So so we see that the Torah is juxtaposing and really considering them all as one. So the upper and lower are all one concept. Ma tachtan kara oil, just as the lowest one, the one that directly, if you're standing inside the Mishkan, you can look up to the ceiling, that's your ceiling, counts as an ohel. Af elyon, so to the uppermost, which is the ram skin and the tachash skin, kara oil, they too will be called an oil. So the Torah, to summarize what we have, is that the Torah tells us that if someone dies in a covered area, that will transfer the tumah. What we have in our discussion is, well, what about that surface itself that is the tent? Is it susceptible to tumah? And we learn from Mishkan that only if the only wood-based material that it had in the Mishkan that counted as an oil was flax linen, so too only flax linen can become tame as a cover of a deceased. Any other wood-based material is not susceptible to tuma as an oil, as a tent. The Gemara challenged, well, where do we know that from? From the Mishkan. Well, it mentions wood as the support beam. It says, yeah, that's the support too. Well, then if that's the case, then the hides above also are not the Mishkan, but they are covers to the Mishkan, covers to the cloth covering. So the Gemara says, you're right. That would be a different material, but the Torah put them together when the Torah says, and you will carry the coverings of the Mishkan, the first layer, the Mishkan itself, the second layer, the Almoed, and the third layer, the hides. And so since the Torah put them together and said, you will carry the coverings, so we see they are all an oil. So the Gemara had brought as a question, what about hides? Since in the Mishkan you had ram's hide and tachash hide as the covering of the Mishkan, and they therefore hides of a kosher animal themselves will become tamei as a tent over the dead. What about a non-kosher animal? So Gufa by Rabbi Elazar. So let's analyze that statement itself. Rabbi Elazar's question: a non-kosher animal's hide, does it become tamei as a tent? What's the basis of the question? What he's really asking is, what was this tachash? What animal was it that it had these skins? You had the ram skin. We know that. That was a red ram skin. Not a red ram skin. Ram skin dyed red. That's a kosher animal. But what was the tachash? Tamei haya? Was it a non-kosher animal? Or tahor haya? Or was it a kosher animal? Amar Rav Yosef Maita Boile. Rabbi Yosef said, what kind of question is that? Tanino, we already know from a brisa that we learned that for the work of the Mishkan and for the work of the Mishkan, only kosher animals were valid. You could not use a non-kosher animal hide because only kosher animals were valid. Goat skin, goat hair, wool, which is from sheep, ram skin. You could only use kosher for the Mishkan, and therefore the tachash also must be kosher. By the way, there's a great question in the Rishonim. Many Rishonim hold, and the Noda B'Yehuda and the Tshuva this way, that not only since it says over here all work of the Mishkan, it's not only the materials, but also the dyes would have to have come from kosher animals. Ella, so Masav Rab, so
how does that work with the dyes? We know that the chilazon and the tolat hashani, I mean, those were not kosher animals.
How do you know that the chilazon is not kosher?
I mean, or shani or whatever.
What?
Tolat hashani.
Tolat hashani only means a thread that has been dyed red, like some snake, so like some worm. Doesn't mean that it had worm dye. In fact, the Rambam says it was some sort of mud that was next to bitzas tolas. It was some mud near that the worm would be in. According to many Rishonim, it's seemingly the Rambam, but the Meiri and others, the chilazon is a kosher fish, a kosher bean.
Okay.
Masav Rabbi Abba. Masav Rabbi Abba. So Rabbi Abba asks. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, Shnei mechsayis haya. There were two covers. Echad shel oris elim adamim. There was one cover that was made of ram's hide that was dyed red. Ve'echad shel oris tachashim, and one of the tachash skin. As you saw in that picture, the picture that I had shown, that there was the red ram's hide and what they had, leopard skin, but a tachash skin. However, Rabbi Nechemia says they weren't two. They were made into one and turned into multicolored with the ram skin interchanged with the tachash skin. And Rabbi Nechemia, it was one cover, but and it was similar to the tla ilan, which is some sort of animal that had multicolors. The Gemara says, tla ilan, tell me, how can you say that they use the tla ilan in the Mishkan as a hide for the cover of the Mishkan? That's a non-kosher animal. That's what it means to say. Kamin tla ilan. Just as the tla ilan had multicolors, so too the cover, which was a combined red skin and a tachash skin, had multicolors. Kamin tla ilanu, it's like the tla ilan sheyesh begvanim harbe, but like tla ilanu. The ilah sometimes vachatar. It's like the tla ilan in that it has multicolored, but it's not the tla ilan because the tla ilan is not a kosher animal, and this had to be a kosher animal. Amar Rabbi Yosef, if that's the case, that's what we say as a translation, sas gavana. That the translation of the tachash, the Targum says, is sas gavana, and he says that sas gavana would be a compound word of shesas begavanim. Sas gavana is that it is joyous, it is happy with its colors. Begavanim harbe. So that's the Mishkan. Rava Amar. The question or the halacha of a non-kosher animal hide being tamei as the oil itself, or behema tameya the matama b'oil ameis miyahacha. We learned that from here. The Tanya, as we learned, or oiba or in defining the tuma of tsaras, we saw that it says if there will be a tsaras in the vertical or the horizontal lines on the loom, whether in linen or in wool, or in hide. Now it should say or hide. Why did it say or in hide? So riba or behema tameya. I'm sorry, and then the pasuk concludes and says or in anything made of hide. So we have extra words when talking about or hide. So the Gemara says the Tani will learn or hides or riba. It says or in the hides or in hides. So there's an addition or behema tameya that adds that not only hides of kosher animals but also hides of non-kosher animals will become tamei if they are acting as a hide. If they get the leprosy, if they get saras. And therefore, we're going to compare and say, so too, ohel, even non-kosher animals. The other thing where it says, be'or, in the hide, shalaka bi'ad kohen, to tell you that not only if when you brought it to the kohen, it already had the saras on it, but even if it developed it in front of the kohen, and it'll also be susceptible to tumah, because it says, the way the Torah describes it is that if you have in your garment that there's a tsaras, you will take it to the kohen, indicating that we're talking about a tsaras that happened prior to coming to the kohen. Therefore, the Torah includes and says, even if it happened that the shalaka, that it became afflicted in front of the kohen, in the hand of the kohen, nevertheless, it will be susceptible to tumah. That tumah of tsaras would apply. Kotzatz mikulan v'asa echad man. The Torah says further, if you made a patch blanket, okay, so you have some patches of linen and some patches of wool and some patches of hide, so you don't have a full garment of either one of them, nevertheless, it's going to be susceptible to tumah of tsaras. Minayin, how do we know that? Talmud Loimer, because it says, or any work of hide, meaning it doesn't have to be that it's a full hide garment, even if it's a composite work, it'll also count as hide.
What would the shear be for, or would the shear be same as like shlosha or shalosh, or
not in the patches, right? And we're saying that if you put together various patches, even if it was less, as long as the combined is a garment, even if each one alone is not susceptible to tumah.
So you've got linen that's less than 3 by 3 fingers, and you've got wool that's less than 3 by 3 fingers, and you got leather that's less than 3 by 3 fingers, or hide.
And it puts together a garment out of that.
Right.
That's susceptible to tumah.
Even though each individual component is insufficient.
Correct. That's the chiddush. If each one is independently,
in other words,
right? If each one independently can be tummy, so I don't need a special drash for that. The drash is saying that even if each one independently is not susceptible to tumah, when I put them together and I made a compound, so a composite of all this, and I made a garment, it'll count as susceptible to tumah. Ve'kol mifrach. The Gemara says, actually, so you want to say that just as hide, a non-kosher animal hide is susceptible to tumah of tsaras, it becomes tamei as a tent over the deceased, over a maze. But I can challenge. Well, you can't tell me just because it's susceptible to tumah by tsaras, therefore it becomes tamei by mace. No, I see that there are some materials that are stricter in regards to the tumah of tsaras. As we mentioned in the last few days, the vertical and horizontal threads of the loom, even though they're not even a garment yet, are susceptible to tumah of tsaras, and that's not true by ohel. It's definitely not going to count as a cover to your tent, to your mace. And so, if it doesn't count as a cover to your mace, for sure. And it does count as tsaras, so then you can't say just because a non-kosher animal hide is susceptible to tumah of tsaras, therefore it must be tamei as a oil as well. No, we find other things that are only tamei for tsaras and not for oil mace, like the vertical and horizontal threads of your loom. Ela gama mishratzim. So he says you're right. We can't compare it to tsaras, to leprosy of a garment, because that has a special degree of tumah in what kind of materials are susceptible. Therefore, we're going to learn it from the tumah of sheretz of rodents. The Tani we learned, or it says over there as well, if the sheretz touched any vessel, linen, wool, or hide. It says over there hide, ainli ela or behema tahara. So perhaps that's only kosher animal hide. Or behema tamei minayin. How do we know that it includes even a non-kosher animal hide? Talmud loima oy or. Therefore, the fact that it says or hides, and it could just say hides or and hides, and it says or hides, or is to tell you even non-kosher animal. Bikala mifrach. So there too, you want to compare it and say just as shratzim, tumas sheretz applies to non-kosher animal hide, so to tumas oyhel, the tent, would also apply to non-kosher animal hides. The Gemara says, no, that too is not a good comparison, because we find a stringency in the tumah of a sheretz greater than the tumah of mace. Why? A sheretz, in order to transfer tumah to something else, all you need is a bean size or a lentil size of sheretz is sufficient to cause tumah to the garment. Whereas by a mace, you need at least a kazayas, which is larger. So you see that the Torah is stricter in the transfer of tumah from a sheretz. So therefore, perhaps it only applies to a non-kosher animal hide there by sheretz, but not by mace. So now we have three tumas that we're dealing with. Tumas mace as a ohel, where we're asking, does the non-kosher animal hide count as a tent in order to for it itself to become tamei from the deceased? We have nega, which a tzaras on your non-kosher animal hide will make the hide tamei as a garment, but there we say there's something strict in that even the loom threads are susceptible to tumah. By sheretz, we also see that a non-kosher animal is susceptible to tumah from a sheretz. A non-kosher animal hide is susceptible to tumah from a sheretz. However, there too there's something strict in that it's even a smaller size of a lentil is also susceptible to tumah. So the Gemara says, okay, so we can do a tzad hashava. If you think the reason why non-kosher animal hides are susceptible to tumah is based upon because even threads of a loom are susceptible to tumah by tzaras, well, that's not the reason by sheretz, because sheretz doesn't have that stringency. And you're telling me this is because it's so small that even a lentil size of a sheretz can make it susceptible to tumah. Therefore, animal hides, non-kosher animal hides are susceptible to tumah. That can't be the reason, because that's not true by nega. Therefore, it's got to be the common denominator. What's the common between the two? That it's susceptible to tumah and it's a non-kosher animal's hide, and therefore it's susceptible to tumah. When the Torah said animal hides are included, it wasn't only kosher animal hides. It meant all animals, even non-kosher. So too over here, and that's how we're going to learn it. So the Gemara says, okay, Negoyim yachichu. Nega can prove that it's not based on the size of ka'adasha of a lentil size, v'chosar adin. And so you're going to ask me a question, and well, by nega it's because it has the threads of the weft and the womb, whatever they are, the vertical horizontal threads. I have a mental block on the words. V'chosar adin l'ri zekri zeh v'l'ri zekri zeh. So we see that the strength of one is not the strength of the other, and the strength of the other is not the strength of one. Therefore, they can't be the reason why animal hides, non-kosher animal hides, are susceptible to tumah. What is the common denominator? That the Torah says hide leather garments are susceptible to tumah, and there's no distinction between kosher and non-kosher. So too, by the tent of a deceased, I would say the same concept. And that hide is susceptible to tumah, and regardless of whether it's kosher or not. Amali Rava and Barnish Ravashi. So Rava said of Barnish said to Ravashi, no, I can still differentiate because the common denominator is between two places that have a very unique halacha that even smaller than an olive size can cause tumah. A lentil size by the sheretz, and a gris size by nega tzaras. So tzaras has the tumah of a gris, which is, let's say, a fava bean, and by sheretz, it's the size of a lentil. Either way, they're smaller than an olive. And generally, we say that an olive size is the general halachic size for everything. And here we have two tumas that have less than a kazayas as your basis for tumah. So perhaps, therefore, since the Torah was strict about them in the small size of tumah transference, therefore also non-kosher animal hides. But by ohel hameis, where the size indeed is a kazayas, perhaps the Torah did not make tumah of non-kosher animal hide. Ikala mifrach, because I can challenge malahal and malat tzad the common denominator. Shekain tamei mepachas mekazayis. Both of them are tamei, even less than a kazayis. Tamei b'mei she'enim tamei ela b'kazayis. But by a deceased person, the tent over them is only tame by kazayas hames, but only an olive size of the deceased.
Roving varnish is trying to upslug the tzad shove.
Correct.
Yeah.
And say it's not a good comparison. Ella Amar Rav Varnish. Rather, we learn it from here, and we're now Chav Chesam and base. Rather, we're going to learn it from the second cover of the Mishkan, which was made up of goat hairs, which is not included in the nega, meaning if you have a goat hair garment and there's a nega tzaras on it, it's not going to be included, as we saw earlier. And yet it counts as a cover of a tent for transference of tumah with the deceased. Or a non-kosher animal which does is susceptible to tumah of tzaras. For sure, it should count as a cover and be susceptible to tumah as a cover of a deceased. Well, now that you're telling me that a cover, a tent, can be even of a non-kosher animal, so then in regards to what did we say, that just as the Mishkan was required to be made of kosher animals, so to all holy work needs to be made of kosher animals. What's being added? What's the all holy work? What does it mean, Melecha Shamayim? What is that? That's in regards to tefillin, to tell us that tefillin needs to be made of kosher animal hides. Tefillin, there the Torah already says a general thing that anything you write the Torah on has to be made of kosher animal hide. The Torah has to be kosher to your mouth. You can only write the Torah on a parchment that's kosher to your mouth. So he says, you're right. We're not talking about the scroll of the tefillin. We're talking about the box of the tefillin. The box of tefillin, the casing of the scrolls, that has to be made out of kosher animal hide. The Gemara says that too must be. We know already from somewhere else. That's a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. V'amar Abaye, as Abaye said, shin shel tefillin. The shin that is protruding on the side of the top of the tefillin shel rosh side, which is made out of the hide. It's not added to it. It's squeezed out of it. That tefillin is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That shin is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That's a halacha that we have by tradition from Moshe. So he says, you're right. We're not talking about that. Ela l'korcha. So we're talking about the wrapping around the scroll. It needs to be bound with sort of like a ribbon made of besaran, of hairs of a kosher animal. With toifrim begidin, and you sew the box together with sinews of a kosher animal. So when it says that too we already know as a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. The time we learned tefillin merubos halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That you need square tefillin is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Nichrach b'sa'arim and tvarim begidin, and also that that it needs to be bound with the hairs of a kosher animal and sewn with the sinews of a kosher animal. That's also halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Elul eretzuos. Rather, what it means is that the hides that you make the straps from for tefillin, they too must be of a kosher animal. Where it says, well, we already learned that the black hides also have to, that the straps need to be black. Where it says, you're right. Yes, it's true that they have to be black. But did we learn that they have to be of a kosher animal? Maybe it could be camel skin that's black. Okay, so my havala, what is the ultimate teaching, the tachash b'Moshe? That we had a question whether the tachash was a kosher or non-kosher animal. What is it? It's an unknown animal, and therefore it's called a birya b'fnei atzma, its own animal, and something that we didn't have. We don't have around today. It was around the Moshe Rabbeinu's times. The Gemara says V'lo yechriyu b'chachamim, and the chachamim could not conclude min chayahu min behemu. Is it a chaya or behema? V'keren achas hayalei b'mitzcha, and it had a single horn on its forehead. If you look at the image I just shared of a giraffe, you see that it has two ears, and it has two sort of like antlers, horns, and then it has a single horn on its forehead. In Sichas Chulin, Rabbi Ben David points out that there are some other animals as well that have this single horn on its forehead, besides for the two antler horns, antler-like, and ears. So that's the Tachash had one of those type of horns. He proposes that perhaps the giraffe or a relative of the giraffe is the Tachash. And it appeared to Moshe, even though it doesn't live in the desert of Sinai, it showed up to Moshe at that point. And they used the Mishkan, and from then it's been lost. Now, and since he said it had a single horn on its forehead, so we see it's a kosher animal, because only kosher animals have that horn, like the giraffe, which is a kosher animal, have that single horn on its forehead. Like the bull that Adam Arisham brought as a korban had a single horn. Shenema, for it says V'teitiv Lashem Mishar Par Makrin Mafris. It says it'll be beloved to Hashem more than the single horn bull. Makrin Tarti Mashma, it says Makrin seems double. It's like Mikaren, and it has a single horn. Well, then, if you're saying that it's like the bull is a behema, not a chaya. It says given the ikka keresh the min chaya. Well, we have another animal called the keresh, which is a type of chaya. But less than a keren, and it only has a single horn. So we don't know whether it's an animal, a behema or chaya type animal. Either way, it's a kosher animal. As we said, that all the work of the shamayim has to be with kosher animals. Tomorrow